Good day everyone. Now Group 8 will present the result of our previous previous research. So I will check on my first members. Dora Sulbaki,
Present.
Devi Narantu,
Present.
Daisy Polo,
Present.
Ogi Kurela,
Present.
and last Abigail Hirata.
Present.
I will be presenting about students' position towards Indonesian English. Next slide. Outline introduction, literatory, field research question and objective, methodology, result and detailed discussion, conclusion, analysis, references. Next slide. Introduction. The global spread of English has resulted in the development of many new English varieties around the globe. Along with this emergence of these diverse range of varieties, this raises a question about the possibility of new variety Indonesian English. As research cities in British Council Serbia 2030 it does not take long for a new variety to emerge when English is adopted by other ESL, EFL speakers because adoption will also start to occur as the language embraces various new words from those current contexts to reflect their underlying cultural backgrounds. Based on some research conducted in the past regarding the Indonesian English varieties, we conclude that Indonesian English is not a fully developed institutionalist English variety due to the minimum theoretical basis, but still open to the possibility of it being an official or not an internalized English variety. The expression, vocabulary, or grammar have not been standardized. It exists sporadically in irregular or random tendencies. In Indonesian society, is a number of expressions or notices written in English and mixed with Indonesian culture. As stated by Aziz 2030, it seems that the one that must be nominated is the benchmark or even the trademark of Indo-English is the differences in the way people realize their act of speech. This is different from the others stabilized varieties that is Australian English, Singapore English, Chinese English, and the like. Next slide. With all of that being said, in the study moving forward, we define Indonesian English. English uses Indonesian in either a complex sentence, part of the sentence, or an expression that is used in Indonesian society that differs to a lot of varieties based on the local language in the area. In our paper, we aim for students' perspective, particularly English department students, Faculty of Humanities, Samratulangi University, for their thoughts on the nation English and the possibility of really over fully developed Indonesian English variety. The global spread of English has resulted in the development of many new English varieties around the globe. Based on some research conducted in the past regarding the Indonesian English varieties, we conclude the Indonesian English is not a fully developed institutionalized English variety due to the minimum theoretical basis, but still open to the possibility of it being an official or not an internalized English variety. The expression, vocabulary, or grammar have not been standardized. It is used in Indonesian in either a complete sentence, part of the sentence, or an expression that is that, that is used in Indonesian society differs a lot of varieties based on the local language in the area. In our paper, we aim for the students' perspective, particularly English department students. Faculty of Humanities San Marcolani University for the talk of Indonesian English and the and the possibility of fully developing Indonesian English variety existing in the future. Next slide.
All right, so now we're moving on to the literature review, or in this case, there are three related studies that has a connection with our topic of Indonesian English. First is a study by Ignatius Triendarto in 2020 entitled A Corpus-Based Lexical Analysis on Indonesian English as a New Variety. This research is aimed to provide a theoretical basis to embrace an English as a lingual franca approach and anticipate Indonesian English as a new variety that might exist in the future. Second is the study by Nike Indradewi, Menik Winiharti, and Maria Tamarinda Prawati in 2018, entitled The Study of Indolish, Indonesian English Variety, Is It Understood Globally? The research searched how far Indolish is understood by Indonesian and non-Indonesian students. The results shows that the average level of Indonesian students in understanding Indolish is significantly higher than that of the non-Indonesian, and it also indicates that society needs to learn English more to be able to communicate with people from other countries and to be able to compete in an era of globalization to help foreigners get along with society. And lastly, the study by Yadi and Sri Ayu Budi Lestari, conducted in 2022, entitled Features of Indonesian English or Indolish, a Sociolinguistic Analysis. The study aims to describe the features of linguistic items in Indolish, as well as the register or style and the code switching. And the result of the study shows that the linguistic features of Indonesian English are omission, overgeneralization, and substitution. Next slide, please.
Research question and objectives. There are two research questions guiding the study. What are the student perception on Indonesian English variety? What are the student perception on the possibility of a fully developed Indonesian English variety existing in the future? And there are two objectives that will be achieved in this study. To find out student perception Indonesian English variety, to, to find out student perception on the possibility of a fully development Indonesian English variety exciting in the future. Next slide, please. And methodology. One, location. The interview taking place in the platform Zoom meeting on December 1st, 2022. And two, participant. The participants in the study were 5 English department students from the Faculty of Humanities, Samratulangi University. All of the participants are not students from the English in Global Context Class B. Next slide, please. And three, research procedure. The research method used for the study in the descriptive qualitative method. The data focus on oral data gained from the online and in-person one-on-one interview with the participant. In the interview, we asked the participant 5 questions. And number 1, have you ever heard now about the Indonesian English variety or in the list? And number 2, what do you know about the Indonesian English variety or in the list? And number 3, do you agree that Indonesian English is developing or be developed Indonesian right now? And number 4, do you think an Indonesian English variety could exist in the future? and why? Number 5, in your opinion, is it a positive or negative development if the Indonesian English variety exists in the future? Next slide, please.
Next is result and discussion. A. Student perception toward Indonesian English variety. 1. Have you ever heard know about Indonesian English variety or English? The answer showed two students had already heard or knew what is English, and three students answered no. They have never heard of the variety before. Number 2. What do you know about Indonesian English variety or English? The answer revealed that the majority of students have some idea of what English is. However, all are very different. One student answered it is a mix of English language used with an Indonesian accent. One student stated it is the ability to express English terms correctly, and another student answered that is that it is slang that younger Indonesian generation popularized from foreign country. One student gave a very specific answer, mentioned that English is the only English language that is used in Indonesia, but it's not valid yet in theory. Even give an example comparing with the more structure and characteristics English. One answer is off the topic. Next slide.
B. Student perception of the possibility of a fully developed in Indonesian English variety existing in the future. 3. Do you agree that Indonesian English is developing or being developed in Indonesian right now? The answer shows that most students will agree that the Indonesian English variety is being developed in Indonesian at this time. One student disagrees that English is developing, but acknowledges the fact that more and more people are getting familiar with the variety, stating it that almost everyone knows about English. 4. Do you think an Indonesian English variety could exist in the future? Why? The answers show all 5 students think that there is a possibility that English could exist in the future. Most give a similar reason, saying that it's because English already had an influential role in Indonesian and it is commonly used. One student stated Indonesia is a country that used the English language as a foreign language, and one student said it's normal due to the majority on average having to know English for work interviews. A student answered that there are already some people who use English, and one student mentioned it, how new innovation will emerge with the passing of time. One student explains his concerns by saying that even though it can exist, it won't be the majority because those who know English is still not much, plus those in the far places where English teacher can reach. Next, 5. In your opinion, is it a positive or negative development if the Indonesian English variety exists in the future? The answers show that 2 students think that it is a positive development if English exists in the future. One student stated that the variation will provide new characteristics to the language, and the other students edit how it's a positive development as long as it develops in the right way. Why and is it not used for something bad? The rest of the students re-answered it can be both positive and negative. One student said it depends on society because English would always be the third language in Indonesia, but also by learning English, we can improve our ability in speaking. However, it cannot replace our national language. Another student stated that on a positive note, people can learn English better. Students who did not understand it can now understand it, but also will bring negative overtake to the future generation, as they only know the variation of English Indonesian. Lastly, one student answered similarly how the negative impact. Many don't know the English variety because of age or so on, and the positive impact is that we ourselves are getting better quality because we have mastered English. None answered that it is only a negative development alone.
Next is conclusion. In conclusion, the Indonesian English variety is different than the other English varieties around the world. It is not a fully developed institutionalized English variety. It comes in irregular circumstances and overall still needs more theoretical basis. However, with English holding the role of the main foreign language in Indonesia, the change for the variety to become fully developed is still very much possible as a number of expression or notice are written in English and mixed with Indonesian culture. From the result and discussion based on the answer given by the participants, it can be said that their perception of the Indonesian English variety are the same with the basis of the Indonesian English variety being not an official variety. Most are familiar with the term and somewhat have an idea about the variety. For all of the students can describe something about English. However, their understanding of the variety is all very different. Despite the dissimilar comprehension, all participants agree on the possibility of Indonesian English or Indolish being a full-fledged English variety in the future. None of the participants solely think of it as a bad progress to come, but most think it is very complex double-sided development with both positive and negatives. Overall, we think that there is still much to research about Indonesian English for students could have a better insight into this rarely talked about variety and its possibility for the future and in the end. Only time could tell where will this variety develop. Next slide, please.
So that is presentation of Group 8. And thank you, guys, who have participated. Thank you.